Good morning. So our service today is about alternate versions of the Lord's Prayer, and I think of that as being a form of guidance. And I brought this book called The Holy Man by Susan Trott, which to me is also a form of guidance, and I'm going to read you a little bit from it. There was a holy man who lived in a hermitage on a mountain. Although solitary, it was not strictly a hermitage because some monks lived there with him. Even before the world began to seek him out, he was rarely alone. When word got out about him, people came to see him during the summer months when the hermitage was accessible. First a few people, then more and more, until there was a long line climbing the steep mountain path, single file. Tens, hundreds, and then thousands, some of them who never made it to his door before the snows came and forced their return. There were no inns, so the pilgrims had to be prepared to camp, which wasn't a hardship as the weather was warm and dry. The views were outstanding and the wildflowers flanked the path. At night, stars were dazzling. Those in line never saw the departing pilgrims. The line moved slowly, but moved continuously during the few hours a day he welcomed people. In fact, those who were near the head of the line could observe and were amazed by how many people he managed to see, even though they were admitted one at a time. The departing pilgrims went out the back door and down another path to the bottom of the mountain. The Hermitage was a two-story whitewashed... Sorry. Early in the morning. The Hermitage was a two-story whitewashed wooden building built on a rock foundation. When the door was opened wide, the next pilgrim in line, waiting beyond the gate, would be summoned forth by a man in a wheat-colored robe, a small, nondescript-looking man. "Yes," he would ask as the pilgrim reached the threshold. "I have come to see the holy man. Follow me, please." He or she would follow the small man through the house, along a hallway with doorways open to various rooms, into which the pilgrim would peek hastily, but the monk ahead was moving so very quickly through the house that the pilgrim couldn't linger, but literally had to rush after him. In no time at all, they had passed through the entire first floor of the house and were at a large door similar to the one the pilgrim had entered. It was the back door. The monk opened it wide and said, "Goodbye." "But I have come to see the holy man," said the visitor plaintively. "You have seen me," he gently replied. And the next thing the pilgrim knew, he would be outside, the door solidly closed behind him. Most times the holy man would add, "If you look on everyone you meet as a holy person, you will be happy." What did the pilgrims feel about being given such short shrift after their long inchward trudge up the mountain? Most of them, like people everywhere, were nice. Maybe per capita there were more nice people in the line than elsewhere because of the nature of the destination. Good people wanting to be better people. Still, even the nicest among them, when the door shut on their departure, felt some of these feelings: wronged, hurt, cheated, disappointed, betrayed, ill-used, angry. But it was amazing how fleeting this letdown was, because as they stood outside the door, somewhat dazed, feeling any or all of the above, they began to review their visit to the holy man and to understand. The door had been opened to them. How many places would this happen in a world of peepholes, locks, bolts, and bars? The door had been opened wide, and a one-man reception committee had stood there, eyes alight, a small smile, saying yes, a kind of "how many may I help you" kind of yes. Whereas the pilgrim had not greeted him at all, had not introduced herself, had said, "Hello, how are you? May I please come in?" But instead, full of her own importance, his own mission, had treated the door opener as the lowliest servant, saying, "I've come to see the holy man." And the door opener, realizing the visitor's mission had already been accomplished, showed him out. Thinking of this, the pilgrim would feel very sorry about his behavior and vowed he would come again next summer and do so differently. He tried to remember what the holy man looked like and couldn't, because he hadn't looked at him. He wouldn't recognize him if the same man opened the door next year. But no matter, he would be courteous and respectful to whoever opened the door. In fact, he would be gracious to everyone from now on, imagining that everyone was the holy man, that everyone indeed had holiness in her or him. This would be very hard. Still, he would try. And that was what he had learned from the holy man. And it was a huge, wonderful, staggering lesson. And it meant, yes, it meant that even he himself was a holy person sometimes, or somewhat. His heart swelled, and he went down the mountain path exulting, I have seen the holy man. I have seen him. And as she thought about this, the face of the holy man did begin to form in her mind's eye like a photograph, developing because even though she hadn't looked at the man, now she knew she had seen him. In the years to come, sometimes the holy man's face would flash upon her inward eye, and she would feel a catch in her throat, a prickling rush of tears to her eyes at the sight of the beloved visage. As the years went by, she felt more and more moved by her visit to the holy man, which had informed her life from that day forward. Thank you.